The morning sun shined brightly over the Rocco Tower, a glass building so tall it touched the sky. Outside, the city moved like any normal day, cars honking, people rushing, shops opening. But inside the tower, nothing was normal. Inside, everything felt heavy, quiet, dangerous. On the top floor, behind huge glass walls and a long marble table, the mafia boss Dante Rocco stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his black silk tie. He had a meeting in a few minutes, one that could decide the future of his crime empire. His men waited outside the door, tense and silent. Dante Rocco was the kind of man who made grown men panic with just one look. Sharp jaw, cold eyes. A presence so powerful that no one dared breathe too loudly around him. He pulled the tie straight, took a slow breath. Ding! The elevator sound sliced through the silence. Dante frowned. No one else was supposed to come up. His men exchanged looks. Hands moved toward guns. The elevator doors slid open, and every man in the room froze, because walking out of the elevator was a little boy, small, maybe 6 years old, wearing a faded yellow t-shirt, slightly dirty shoes, and holding a stuffed blue dinosaur in one hand. He stepped into the mafia floor like he belonged there, like he wasn't surrounded by the most dangerous men in the city. The guards reacted instantly. Stop right there. Kid, don't move. Who brought him up? But the boy didn't stop, didn't blink, didn't even flinch. He just kept walking, step by step, across the polished floors. Dante turned slowly, confused for the first time in years. Who was this child? How did he get past the guards? How did he reach the private elevator? The boy walked directly toward Dante. His tiny footsteps echoed like thunder in the silent room. One guard pointed his gun at him. Boss, say the word. Dante raised his hand sharply. No guns. The guard lowered it instantly. The boy stopped right in front of Dante. For a moment, they just stared at each other. The most feared mafia boss in the city, and a child barely tall enough to reach his chest. Dante looked down, studying his face. The boy had big brown eyes, shining with determination. And something else. Pain. The boy tilted his head up. Then, without warning, he reached forward, grabbed Dante's silk tie with his tiny fingers, and pulled it down. Dante's men almost jumped. Several reached for weapons again, but Dante lifted his hand again. Stand down. He knelt slightly so the boy could keep hold of the tie. The boy glared at him with a seriousness far too heavy for someone his age. His voice trembled, but his words were sharp like a knife. One of your guys made my mom cry. All night. The room fell silent. Even the air stopped moving. Dante felt something stir deep inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. A horrible, painful memory tried to rise. But he pushed it down. He narrowed his eyes. Your mom? He asked quietly. The boy nodded, still gripping the tie. She cried, and nobody helped. So, I came here. Dante studied the boy's trembling lips, the redness around his eyes. This child had been terrified, but pushed past that fear to stand here. Tell me your name, Dante said softly. Leo, the boy replied. And your mother? Dante asked. Leo swallowed. He clutched his stuffed dinosaur closer. Then he whispered a name Dante had buried deep in his heart, a name he never allowed anyone to speak in front of him, a name that cut through him like a blade. Maya. Dante's breath caught. His hands curled into fists. For a moment, the world around him faded. He saw a different time. A small apartment. A woman with gentle eyes. A promise he made. A promise he broke. He blinked and came back to the present. Maya, he repeated quietly. Your mother is Maya? Leo nodded again. Dante felt his heartbeat grow heavy. Heavy enough that even his guards noticed something was off. Their boss never showed emotion. But right now, his jaw was tight, his eyes darker than usual, his breathing uneven. Dante lowered himself fully to the boy's level. Leo, who hurt your mother? Leo hesitated. Tears filled his eyes. but he didn't let them fall. I don't know his name, but he has a snake tattoo on his neck, and he said he works for you. A slow, cold rage rose inside Dante. A man with a snake tattoo, one of his older crew members, one with a history of stepping out of line. Dante placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. I'm going to make sure no one hurts her again, he said quietly. You have my word. Leo finally let go of the tie, but he held Dante's sleeve instead. My mom's not at home, he whispered. What do you mean? Dante asked. She was crying when I left this morning, but when I came back after school she was gone, and the door was open, and her things were on the floor. Dante stood up slowly, his eyes turning ice cold. He turned to his men. Find the man with the snake tattoo. Bring him to me. Alive. His men scattered immediately. Dante grabbed his coat, moving toward the elevator. Boss, where are you going? One guard asked. Dante didn't look back. To find the boy's mother. Leo tugged his sleeve again. You're going the wrong way, he said softly. Dante paused. Leo pointed toward the elevator. She's not home anymore, the boy whispered. Someone took her. Dante felt a chill crawl up his spine. Who? He asked. Leo shook his head. I don't know. But they left something. Dante knelt again. What did they leave? Leo reached into his pocket. His small hand shook as he pulled out a single object. A phone. Old. Scratch. The screen cracked. I found it on the floor, Leo said. It started ringing when I picked it up. Dante took the phone from Leo's hand. As soon as he touched it, the phone lit up. Incoming call. No name. No number. Just a black screen. Dante's heartbeat slowed. His fingers tightened around the device. He accepted the call. He didn't speak. A distorted voice echoed through the speaker. You want the woman? Dante's eyes hardened. Who is this? The voice ignored him. Bring the boy to the old district. Alone. Dante's grip tightened. If you touch her, come alone. Bring the boy, or she won't survive another hour. The phone beeped. The call ended. Silence filled the room. Leo looked up at Dante, tears forming again, but still bravely holding them back. Is she in trouble? He whispered. Dante took a slow breath. Then he placed a hand over Leo's. Yes, he said quietly, but I promise you will get her back. The boy clutched Dante's sleeve again, burying his face in the fabric. Dante looked down at him, and for the first time in years, something inside him cracked. This boy, his face, his eyes, they felt painfully familiar, and the thought that someone had taken Maya, someone had made her cry, someone had threatened this child. It filled Dante with a fury he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He lifted the boy gently. Stay close to me, Dante said. No one will hurt you. Leo nodded. Dante stepped into the elevator with the boy in his arms. As the doors closed, Dante stared at his own reflection in the mirrored walls. The reflection of a powerful mafia boss holding a scared child. The reflection of a man facing ghosts from his past. A man about to walk into a trap. But Dante didn't care. Not anymore. If someone wanted a war, they had just started one. Cliffhanger ENDOF Chapter 1. As the elevator descended, the broken phone in Dante's hand lit up again. A new message appeared on the cracked screen. It read, Tick-tock, boss. She doesn't have much time. Dante's jaw clenched. His eyes burned with rage. He was coming, and whoever had taken Maya would not live to regret it. The elevator doors opened into the underground parking lot, where the sun shined through narrow slits in the concrete, casting long shadows on the floor. Dante stepped out, still holding Leo close. The boy's tiny hands clung to Dante's coat, as if letting go meant losing the only protection he had left. Danny's men waited there, shocked to see their ruthless boss carrying a child, but none dared question him. Get my car, Dante ordered quietly. His voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that meant a storm was forming inside him. A sleek black SUV rolled forward. Dante opened the back door for Leo, making sure the boy settled in before shutting the door gently. something no one expected from a man like Dante. He walked around to the driver's side himself. He didn't trust anyone else behind the wheel today. The engine roared to life. As the car sped out of the parking lot, the sunlight hit Leo's face. He looked small, fragile, lost. "Tell me exactly what happened last night," Dante said, eyes fixed on the road. Leo swallowed. He held tightly to his stuffed dinosaur. "My mom, she works at a diner. The night shifts." His voice shook. "She tells me to sleep when she leaves, but I stay awake until she comes home because I don't like the dark." Dante felt something twist inside his chest. Leo continued. "A man came in late. He had a tattoo on his neck, the snake. He yelled at the other workers, and my mom tried to calm him, but he grabbed her wrist. Hard!" Leo's small fingers curled, remembering the scene. "What did he want?" Dante asked. "He wanted money. He said she owed him. She told him she didn't know what he was talking about, but he didn't listen." Leo's voice cracked. He threw plates, broke the counter. He told her he'd come back for her, and if she didn't pay, he'd take something she loved. Dante gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white. Leo wiped his eyes. "She came home crying. I tried to hug her, but she told me not to worry." He took a shaky breath. "She cried all night." Silence filled the car. Dante stared ahead, jaw locked. He remembered Maya's laugh, her gentle eyes, the way she used to tell him he wasn't as cold as he pretended to be. He'd left her to protect her from his world, from men like the one who hurt her last night. And yet, she still ended up in danger. Leo looked out the window at the passing buildings. When he spoke again, it was barely a whisper. "When I came home today, she wasn't there." Dante's throat tightened. "Leo," he said softly, "I swear to you, I will fix this." Leo didn't speak. He just leaned his head against the seat, trusting the man he had known for less than an hour, more than he trusted anyone else. They reached Maya's apartment complex. It was small, old, and poorly repaired, far from the life she once dreamed of. Dante parked and stepped out, scanning the area. Leo ran ahead to the door of their home. It was open, hanging crooked, the lock broken. Inside, the small living room was a mess. Chairs overturned, a lamp shattered. Her handbag spilled across the floor, keys, wallet, everything untouched. Dante walked in slowly. Leo pointed to the ground near the sofa. "Her bracelet, she never takes it off." Dante picked up the silver bracelet carefully. He remembered it, the one he bought her years ago. A wave of guilt crashed through him. This was his fault. If he had stayed, if he had protected her, if he had been the man she needed. He shut his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them, dangerous and determined. "She was taken recently," Dante said. "There's no blood. They didn't want her dead." Leo hugged his dinosaur tighter. "Why would someone take my mom?" Dante replied, "Because they want something, and using her is their way to get it." Leo looked up at Dante with fear. "Are they going to hurt her?" Dante knelt down and placed his hands on Leo's shoulders. His voice was firm. "No one touches your mother again. Not while I'm alive." Leo swallowed hard but nodded. Dante stood and began examining the room, using years of instinct. He noticed faint muddy footprints on the floor, 3 sets. A piece of duct tape thrown to the side. A chair knocked over but not broken. A struggle. Quick. Forced. Dante felt his blood boil. One of his men, Tony, came in behind him. "Boss, whoever did this wanted to send a message." Dante turned sharply. "What message?" Tony hesitated. "We found this outside the building." He handed Dante a small envelope. Dante opened it. Inside was a photo. Maya, tied to a chair, blindfolded, bruised. Leo gasped and covered his mouth. Dante felt everything inside him go still. On the back of the photo, in messy handwriting, "Bring the boy, or she dies." Tony looked pale. "Boss, this is serious. They're expecting you to." "Silence," Dante snapped. Leo tugged Dante's sleeve. What do they want with me?" Dante inhaled, forcing his voice to stay gentle. "They think you matter to me," he said honestly. Leo blinked. "Do I?" Dante froze. The truth rose to his lips. Then he pushed it down. "Right now," he said, "you matter more than anyone." Leo stared at him for a moment, as if trying to understand something bigger than his age could handle. Dante walked to the window and looked out at the busy daytime street. Whoever took Maya was bold, confident, organized. And the phone call earlier. Bring the boy to the old district. Alone. This wasn't random. This wasn't about money. This was personal. Dante felt pieces clicking into place in his mind. There was only one reason someone would risk touching Maya. To hurt Dante. To force his hand. To use the woman he loved and the child who might be his to trap him. Dante's eyes darkened. His breath steadied. The storm inside him grew stronger. He turned to Tony. "Find every man with a snake tattoo in this city. I want names. Addresses. Known associates." Tony nodded. "On it." Dante grabbed the photo again. His jaw clenched so tightly it hurt. Maya was in danger because of him. Because he abandoned her. Because he allowed his world to leak into hers. He would not fail her again. He walked to Leo. "We're leaving," he said. "We're going to find your mother." Leo nodded bravely. But his voice shook when he asked, "Where are we going?" Dante looked down at the photograph, then at the message scrawled across the back. "Somewhere I hoped I'd never take you," he said quietly. Leo tightened his grip on Dante's hand. Dante led him toward the door. As they stepped outside, Dante's phone buzzed. Another message. He unlocked the screen and read it. A live location link and a timer, counting down from 60 minutes. Under the timer, just 4 words. "Come alone. Bring HIM." The countdown ticked. 59, 57, 59, 56, 59, 55. Dante's heartbeat thundered. This was no simple kidnapping. This was a declaration of war. He lifted Leo into the car, shut the door firmly, and got into the driver's seat. Leo stared at the timer on the screen. "Dante, what happens when it reaches 0? Dante looked at Leo through the mirror, his eyes fierce, unblinking. "You're going to make sure it doesn't." He started the engine. The car shot forward. The sun was still shining over the city. But for Dante and Leo, the light felt thinner, colder, as if the day itself knew what they were about to walk into. The warehouse stayed painfully silent. Too silent. The mafia boss, Dante Marino, stood frozen where the little boy had released his tie. The boy's small handprint still felt hot on the fabric, and Dante's heartbeat, usually steady, calm, cold, was suddenly racing like a cornered animal. He didn't understand why. This was just a kid, but that kid had looked straight into his eyes and ripped open something Dante had buried for years. Across the room, the boy's mother, Maya, kept her arms around her son, her breathing unsteady. She didn't look at Dante the way everyone else did. No fear, no awe, no desperation to please him. Only anger, only exhaustion, only a mother's silent fire. For the first time in a long time, Dante wasn't the most frightening presence in the room. The little boy was. "All right." Dante finally spoke, running a hand through his hair. "Let's start over." Maya didn't answer. The boy glared. The boss swallowed hard. "Your name, kid?" "Leo," the boy snapped. "And I'm not scared of you." A couple of Dante's men exchanged looks, shocked, confused, unsure if the boy was brave or insane. "Leo," Dante repeated softly, as if testing how the name felt in his mouth. "You said one of my guys made your mom cry. She didn't sleep all night." His voice cracked. "She tried to hide it. But I heard her. I heard everything." Leo's small body trembled. Not from fear. From a pain a child shouldn't know. Dante felt something twist sharply in his chest. "Which one of you idiots did this?" he barked, snapping at his men. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Leo's face hardened. "You don't know your own people?" That landed like a slap. Dante exhaled slowly, controlling the storm rising inside him. This wasn't going anywhere. He needed clarity, answers. And then, the unexpected happened. Maya stepped forward, her voice calm, steady. Too steady for someone facing a mafia boss. Let me speak to you alone. The entire room stiffened. Dante blinked. Alone? Yes. Her tone was not a request. It was a decision. You want to know what happened? Then talk to me. Without your men. Without anyone listening. Leo tugged her sleeve. Mom! She knelt, cupping his cheeks. Her voice softened, breaking slightly. I'll be okay. Dante felt something uneasy ripple inside him. This woman was either fearless or broken in a way he understood too well. He nodded once. Everyone out. His men looked at him like he'd lost his mind, but when Dante gave an order, they obeyed. Within seconds, the vast warehouse stood empty except for the three of them. The air felt heavier, quieter, too honest. Maya faced him directly. No shaking hands, no trembling voice, just the calm of someone who had already survived worse than him. You want the truth? She said. Fine, but I want something in return. Dante raised an eyebrow. A treat? With me? Yes. Leo hugged her leg tighter. Dante folded his arms, intrigued despite himself. What exactly are you trading? She took a breath. You get the truth about what your man did, and I get safety for my son. No more threats. No more shadows outside my window. No more fear. Dante frowned. Who said anyone was following you? Maya looked him dead in the eye. You did. Silence. Dante didn't flinch, but he didn't deny it either. Leo watched them both, eyes darting, confused, worried, angry. What did my guy do? Dante finally asked. And why come to me? Maya blinked slowly. This will hurt your ego, she said quietly. But I'm not here because I trust you. The boss felt his jaw tighten. I'm here, she whispered, because you're the only monster the other monsters are scared of. That hid differently. Dante straightened. The truth was ugly, but he respected ugly truth far more than pretty lies. Tell me everything, he said. Promise my son's safety first. Dante stepped closer, lowering his voice. You're not in a position to negotiate. Maya didn't move. I'm the only one willing to tell you what you need to know. That puts me in a perfect position. Dante almost smiled. Almost. This woman was dangerous in a way he couldn't explain. A different kind of danger, one born from survival instead of power. Fine, he said. I give you my word. No one touches the boy. Leo's angry little voice suddenly broke in. And no one touches my mom either. Dante turned. For a moment, just a moment, he felt a sting behind his ribs. Agreed. He didn't know why the boy's words mattered. But they did. Maya took a slow breath and spoke. Your man came to the diner late last night. Dante's brows pulled together. He asked questions about the people who eat there. The regulars. The ones who pay in cash. The ones who look like they're hiding something. Dante stiffened. That was not unusual. But Maya wasn't done. He wasn't there for information, she whispered. He was there to corner me. Dante's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He told me to report to him if I ever saw someone suspicious. I refused. Her voice cracked for the first time. That's when he said he'd make sure my son learned how the world really works if I didn't cooperate. Dante's blood turned to fire. Threatening a child? Using a mother as leverage? That was a line even he didn't tolerate. What else? He asked, voice low and dangerous. Maya swallowed. I tried to walk away. He grabbed my wrist. Hard. Dante's hands curled into fists. Leo tugged her arm, whispering, Mom. Maya brushed his hair gently. I'm okay, baby. But Dante could see the faint bruise on her wrist. He hadn't noticed it before. He wished he hadn't noticed now. His voice felt like gravel. What did he look like? Maya shook her head. I won't point fingers until you keep your promise. Dante stared at her, then at Leo. A storm raged inside him. Anger, guilt, something unfamiliar. Fine. he said. But I need a name. Maya looked straight into his eyes. His name. She paused. Starts with. A loud metallic bang echoed from outside the warehouse. Both Maya and Leo jumped. Danny's entire expression shifted. Cold, sharp, predatory. He raised a hand, signaling them to stay silent. Another bang. Then footsteps. Heavy, fast, too many. Dante's eyes narrowed. Someone was approaching the warehouse. Someone uninvited. Yee. The cliffhanger. The unseen enemy. Dante turned to Maya and Leo, voice barely above a whisper. Get behind me. No! Maya grabbed Leo and moved instantly. Dante reached inside his coat and drew his gun, silent, controlled, furious. A shadow passed the warehouse window. Then another. Then a third. Leo gripped his mother's shirt, whispering, Mama, is that the man? Maya wrapped her arms around him. Her voice trembled for the first time. I don't know. Dante took one slow step toward the entrance, eyes narrowing, heart steady now, ready for war. Because whoever was outside, they weren't friendly, they weren't expected, and they definitely weren't scared. The door handle began to turn, slowly, deliberately. Someone was coming inside. Dante raised his gun, muscles tense, every instinct screaming. And then, the door swung open. Dante's eyes widened, because the person entering was not who he expected, not even close. Morning light should bring safety, but on this day, it only made the danger easier to see. The streets were bright, the air warm, people going about their routines, unaware that a silent storm was about to break open above them. Dante stood on the roof of an abandoned factory overlooking the city. His jaw was clenched, his eyes burning, his fingers curled tight around the edge of the railing as he watched the world move below him. The sun hid his face, but nothing about him felt warm. He had spent all night tracing the trail, that single name whispered by a terrified man. Rocco, a former soldier in Dante's organization, a man who had been quietly building his own power, a traitor hiding in plain sight, protected by shadows and loyalty bought with blood. And worst of all, someone who had dared to hurt a woman Dante had sworn to protect, even before he realized she needed protection. Someone who had left a child crying outside his office door. Someone who had made a mother suffer in silence while the city slept. Dante felt his heart twist with a rage he could no longer hide. Boss, Marco whispered behind him. We found Rocco's men. They're scattered but armed. They're expecting us. Dante didn't turn. He simply inhaled. Slowly. Deeply. Good, he said. Let the daylight burn their lives. Dante walked down the metal stairs, his black coat flowing behind him like a shadow cutting through sunlight. His men gathered around him, Marco, Luca, Ciro, and a small group of trusted fighters. But Dante wasn't thinking about strategy. He was thinking about a woman with tired eyes and a boy who had clung to his tie with trembling fingers. He had seen thousands of people beg, cry, threaten, scream, but the words of a child had cut deeper than any bullet ever could. One of your guys made my mom cry. All night. Those words lived in Dandy's chest now, glowing like a wound that refused to close. Marco stepped closer. Boss, we go in, take out Rocco's men, drag him out by his throat. Dante raised one hand, stopping him. No, he said quietly, dangerously. We go in clean. No collateral. No civilians touched. No chaos. Marco blinked. But Rocco won't fight fair. That's his mistake, Dante replied. Not ours. They moved through the industrial district, boots hitting the cracked pavement. The sun glared off broken windows and rusted metal. It was supposed to be an ordinary morning, yet every shadow felt like it was holding its breath. From the corner of a loading dock, a figure appeared. Then another. Then 10 more. Rocco's men, armed, prepared, waiting. For a moment, one long, heavy heartbeat. Both sides stared at each other in complete silence. No night to hide behind. No darkness to soften the violence. Only the unforgiving clarity of morning. Luca whispered, Boss, They're signaling something. A man on the opposite side raised his hand. A smile spread across his face. And then, the sound cracked through the air like thunder tearing the sky apart. Concrete shattered. Dust filled the air. Metal sparked as bullets ricocheted off pipes and containers. Dandy's men dove for cover. Dante did not. He walked forward, slow and steady, like a king stepping into a storm. Marco grabbed his arm. "Boss, get down." Dandy's voice was cold. "I told you, daylight exposes cowards." He lifted his gun and fired once. A single shot. Precise. Deadly. A man dropped instantly. The others faltered. Because Dante wasn't fighting like a mafia boss. He was fighting like a man with a purpose. A man with a wound. A man with something to protect. Smoke rose. Screams echoed. The sharp smell of gunpowder clung to the air. But amid the chaos, Dante noticed something strange. Rocco's men weren't just fighting to defend territory. They were trying to stall, trying to delay, trying to keep Dante from reaching something. Or someone. He ducked behind a steel barrel, breathing heavily as bullets tore through the air above him. Marco slid beside him. They're covering an exit route. They're moving people, maybe weapons, maybe hostages. Dante froze. Hostages. No. Not them. Not again. Not after everything he'd already failed to protect. Where? Dante demanded. Marco pointed toward a tall warehouse at the far end of the yard. Dandy's heart hammered once hard. "The woman and the boy," he whispered. Marco's eyes widened. "Boss, you think they've been taken?" "I think," Dante said, stepping out again, firing methodically, "that Rocco knows exactly how to hurt me." By the time they reached the warehouse, the sun was high, casting long shadows across the ground. Dante kicked the door open. The inside was dark. Dust floated like ghosts in the beams of sunlight cutting through the broken roof. The air felt too still, too quiet. This wasn't a battlefield. This was a message. A trap shaped like silence. A threat shaped like emptiness. A whisper of something gone terribly, terribly wrong. Danny's footsteps echoed as he walked deeper. His eyes adjusted slowly to the dim light. Then he saw something. A small object on the floor. Marco picked it up, squinting. A child's backpack. Dandy's fists clenched so hard his knuckles turned white. "Boss," Marco whispered, voice shaking slightly. "This is the boys." Dante felt something cold crawl through his chest. Fear. Real fear. Not for himself. For a child. For a woman he barely knew yet, couldn't stop thinking about. For a promise he didn't remember making, but somehow already felt responsible for. He whispered, barely audible. "He took them." A soft creak sounded from the far end of the warehouse. Dante spun instantly, gun raised. A single figure stepped out from behind a stack of crates. Not Rocco. One of his lieutenants. Bleeding. Limping. Smirking. "Looking for someone, boss?" Marco cursed and aimed his gun. Dante didn't fire. He stepped closer. "Where are they?" The man coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "You're too late, Rocco. He knew you'd come running. He knew that woman would get to you." Dante's jaw tightened. "Where are they?" The lieutenant chuckled weakly. "Rocco said to tell you. If you want them back." He lifted his head, eyes wild, smiling through the pain. "Come alone." Crack. A bullet tore through the man's skull. Marco lowered the smoking gun. He was reaching for a detonator. Dante didn't react. He was already staring at the back door, the one Rocco's men had used to escape. His voice was soft, cold, terrifying. "We go after them." Marco nodded. "All of us." Dante's eyes narrowed, remembering the lieutenant's final words. "Come alone." The floor vibrated beneath them. A soft beep, sharp, mechanical, echoed through the warehouse. Marco's head snapped up. "Boss, that sound." Dandy's eyes widened. "It's a—" The warehouse shook violently as a massive explosion ripped through the back section. Flames shot upward, smoke filled the air, debris rained down like burning hail. Marco tackled Dante to the floor as the shockwave blasted through the building. The sound was deafening. The world turned white. Fire! Heat! Screams! Silence. The warehouse burned, crackling like a roaring beast. Marco coughed, pushing debris off himself. Boss, are you okay? Dante rose slowly, dust and soot falling from his clothes. But his face was carved from stone, emotionless, deadly, a storm controlled only by rage. He blew the tracks behind him, Marco said hoarsely. He wants you isolated. Dante looked at the burning ruins. Rocco wanted a war? He would get one. In daylight. In darkness. In hell itself. Dante whispered, "Find that woman. Find the boy. No matter what it takes." Marco nodded firmly. "But boss, where are you going?" Dante stepped toward the sunlight, the fire reflecting in his eyes like a promise of destruction. "I'm going," he said quietly, "to finish this." But before he could take another step, a single shot echoed from outside. Sharp, close, targeted. Marco shouted, "Boss, get down." But Dante didn't move. He turned slowly and saw a sniper's glint on a nearby rooftop, aimed directly at him. The next shot fired, and darkness swallowed everything. A bullet should have ended the story. But sometimes, fate doesn't let the guilty die so easily. Dandy's eyes snapped open to a blinding white ceiling. His vision blurred, his heartbeat thundering in his ears as he struggled to understand where he was. The smell of antiseptic, the faint beeping of a machine, a bandage wrapped around his shoulder. He was in a safe house clinic, one his men used for emergencies. Marco sat beside him, battered but alive. "You're awake," Marco breathed out. "Thank God. We thought. Where are they?" Dante demanded, voice rough, raw, and shaking with something he refused to call fear. Marco lowered his gaze. "Rocco took them. We traced the signal from the warehouse explosion. They're in the old river docks." Dante pushed himself up despite the stabbing pain in his shoulder. "We're leaving." "No!" Marco grabbed his arm. "Boss, there's something else. Something you need to hear before you go in there." Dante froze. Marco's eyes were full of something Dante had never seen in him before. Pity. "Boss," he whispered, "Rocco didn't take that woman and child at random. He took them because he knew who she was." Dandy's heartbeat slowed. "Who?" he asked, voice like a knife. "Is she?" Marco swallowed hard. "She's someone connected to your past. Someone you were supposed to protect a long time ago." Dandy's stomach turned. "No," he said firmly. "No more riddles. Tell me the truth." Marco took a breath. "She's the sister of Matteo, the man Rocco killed. Your closest friend." The world around Dante tilted. His vision narrowed. His breath left him in one violent exhale. Matteo, his brother in everything except blood. The one man whose death had nearly broken him. The one tragedy he had never forgiven himself for. And now, Matteo's sister was the woman crying in a small apartment. Matteo's nephew was the boy who pulled his tie with trembling hands. Dandy's voice cracked, barely audible. "He never told me he had a son." Marco nodded softly. "He kept them hidden, to protect them from your enemies. And maybe, from your world." Dante closed his eyes. Pain pressed against his ribs like a blade. So that boy, that fearless, trembling little boy who faced a mafia boss, he was Matteo's son. The son of the man Dante failed to save. No wonder Rocco wanted them. No wonder he targeted her. He wasn't trying to break Dandy's power. He was trying to break Dandy's soul. Dante opened his eyes, and they were no longer the eyes of a man recovering from a bullet wound. They were the eyes of a storm finally deciding where to strike. "Get the car," Dante said. "We end this now." The clouds were gathering, though the sun was still up, drawing sharp streaks of white across the sky as Marco drove. Dante sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, every memory of Matteo flooding back. Training beside him, fighting beside him, laughing with him, losing him, and now learning that Matteo had left behind a family, one Dante never knew, but instantly felt responsible for. His hands trembled, not from fear, from guilt so heavy it felt like it was crushing his lungs. Marco spoke softly. "Boss, you're not thinking straight." "I'm thinking clearly," Dante replied. "You're hurt. I've been hurt for years. You're walking into a trap." "I know." Marco exhaled. "Then why are you still going?" Dante turned his head slowly. His voice, deep, calm, deadly, filled the car like a vow written in stone. "Because that boy called me, sir. Because that woman begged me without saying a word. Because Matteo died believing I was a man worth trusting. And I refuse. I absolutely refuse to fail them again." Marco said nothing. There was nothing left to say. The docks were almost silent when they arrived. Old boats creaked against the wooden posts. The wind carried the smell of rust and dirty water. Marco and two other men stayed back as Dante walked down the pier alone. Every step felt like judgment. Every breath felt like a countdown. At the end of the pier stood an old warehouse, and in front of it, Rocco, smiling, armed, surrounded by men. "Dante," he sneered, spreading his arms. "You survived. I was hoping you would." Dante's voice was ice. "Where are they?" Rocco chuckled. "You always were impatient. Come inside. Let me show you something." Dante followed, muscles tense, senses sharp. Inside, the woman was tied to a chair. The little boy stood beside her, unharmed but frightened. Tears streaked down his face as he saw Dante enter. "Dante," the boy cried. "He said you weren't coming. He said you left us." Dandy's heart shattered. "I'm here," he said softly. "I'm right here." Rocco shoved the child aside. Touching. Very touching. Rocco stepped close to Dante, voice dripping poison. "You want the truth? That woman hates your world. Your friend died because of you. And now his family screams because of you." Dante didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He whispered, "Let them go, Rocco. This is between us." Rocco smirked. "Oh, but that's where you're wrong. This is exactly about them." He snapped his fingers. A man dragged out a folder and tossed it at Dante's feet. "Those are Matteo's files. His real last mission. The truth he hid from you." Dandy's blood ran cold as he opened it. Photos, reports, signatures, and one document that made his knees weaken. Matteo's confession. A letter addressed to Dante. Dante read it with trembling hands. "If anything happens to me, protect them. Do not let them into your world. They are my last piece of goodness. And the truth you fear most is that you are the only one left who can save them." Dante closed the letter slowly. The truth he feared most wasn't betrayal. It wasn't failure. It wasn't death. It was this, that he was responsible for a family he didn't know existed. And now they were in danger because of him. Rocco laughed. "Look at you, shaking. Like, I told you, your heart is your downfall." Dante looked up, and the expression on his face made even Rocco take a step back. Because Dante wasn't shaking from fear. He was shaking from rage. A controlled, focused, terrifying rage that could level empires. "Let them go," Dante said softly. Rocco raised his gun. "Make me." Everything happened in one explosion of movement. Dante lunged. Rocco fired. The bullet grazed Dandy's arm, but he didn't stop. The two crashed into a pile of crates, fists flying, grunts echoing through the warehouse. Rocco swung a metal pipe. Dante dodged and slammed his shoulder into Rocco's ribs, lifting him and throwing him across the room. Blood splattered. Wood cracked. The boy screamed. The woman cried out. Dante grabbed Rocco by the collar and punched him again, and again, and again, until Rocco's laughter faded into choked breaths. "You want the truth?" Dante growled. "Here it is." He threw Rocco against a pillar. "You hurt Matteo." He punched. "You hurt his family." Another punch. "And you made a child ask a mafia boss for protection." Dante grabbed Rocco by the throat and pressed him against the wall. "That is the only reason you're still alive." Rocco spat blood, coughing out. "You can't save them." Dante leaned close. "I already have." Marco and the others stormed in, taking out the remaining guards. The woman was freed. The boy ran into Dante's arms, and Dante, for the first time in years, felt a tear roll down his cheek, not from pain, but from the weight of everything he had finally faced. The truth he feared most wasn't that he had failed Matteo. It was that he might fail again. But today, under daylight, with smoke rising behind them, he hadn't. He looked at the little boy and whispered, "No one will ever make your mother cry again. Not while I'm alive." The boy hugged him tighter. And in that moment, Dante understood something Rocco never would. Power wasn't about fear. It wasn't about guns or blood or territory. Real power was protection.